Are you ready for another amazing heat embossing technique? Now, I've just discovered this. You may have seen it before. Let me know in the comments if you have. I think it's wonderful. It opens up so many possibilities for brand new embellishments for your cards, for your scrapbooking, for your art journals. Come and take a look at the technique and then let me know afterwards what you might be trying this out for. So what you're going to be needing for this is a heat tool. I like to use a cooling rack as well. I'll show you why, but that's not essential. I've got a silicone mat as well. Notice no paper or cardstock. I've got clear embossing powder, no embossing ink. I've also got alcohol inks as well. And then I've got a metal pokey tool and a pair of scissors for later on. So pop the scissors to the side and we're going to work on our silicone mat. Now this is going to take place of the paper or cardstock, so choose a rather clean side of your silicone mat, like so, and we're going to sprinkle a good amount of embossing powder onto our silicone mat. Now you want to make sure that you've got a large enough area on something like your cooling rack so that you can hold this in the air, heat from underneath, and not risk that hot air hitting anywhere near where your fingers are. Okay, so if you want to move your mat right to the corner like so and concentrate your heat on this area, make sure you do that, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to sprinkle my powder onto my silicone mat, and you want quite a thick layer. So I've got a really large tub here, like so. I think that's probably a good amount. I can afford as well to just tap that around, flatten it out a little bit. It will all kind of just run into each other and smooth out naturally anyway. But I want a decent amount so I can really show you the technique. That should be about right. And then I'm just going to hold the very corner here, and I'm going to take my heat gun and heat this from underneath. Now this does take a few minutes because you're having to let the heat get through the silicone mat and gradually melt the embossing powder. So I will speed this part up for you. Keep everything moving if you can. Make sure, of course, your hands aren't getting warm. If they are, put it down. You can allow everything to just cool down for a few minutes and try again, or something like an oven glove on your hand will help protect it. Now, once your embossing powder has completely melted, you need to keep it warm. So I've now transferred my heat gun to on top of it instead, from a distance, keeping it warm. Make sure the lids are off of your alcohol inks. It's not the end of the world if you need to take the heat away from your embossing powder and then take the lids off and get yourself ready, but you do need to warm up the embossing powder all over again. So with my pokey tool ready as well, I am going to drip some alcohol ink. This is a beautiful green colour into my embossing powder, and I'm going to do more of this because the last piece I did I used more of the pink, and then I'm going to do a few drops of pink, not too many in this one because I want the green to be the overriding colour, and I'm just going to start moving this around. I'm keeping the heat on this all the time, and if you find that any bits are starting to clump together, you just need to put more heat on them until they start to melt, and we can start marbling this. Look how beautiful that is already. I'm getting a purple coming through from the two colours. You can do one colour, you can do 10 colours. It's entirely up to you. Keep the heat on all of the powder, making sure that none of it is setting whilst you work around until you're happy with the design you've got. I think that is absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to take that heat off and I'm going to leave that now for about 5 minutes to cool down. Once that's started to cool down, you'll be able to then peel it off of your backing sheet. This is really easily done. This is why we've used a silicone mat. And now you can really see the design that we've got on this clear piece of embossing powder. How beautiful does that look? It's absolutely stunning. Like I say, you could even work at creating swirls and dots in there. You could create stripes. You could even attempt maybe making some letters in there. It's entirely up to you. At the moment, this is still a little bit flexible, but it is starting to really cool down. So now that powder is all completely, well, pretty much hardened, I'm going to take my scissors, make sure they're non-stick scissors if you can, and I'm now going to trim this into the shapes that I want. You can do this when it's completely hardened, but it's much easier to do it while it's slightly warm and got a little bit of flexibility still. So I'm going to go with some square shapes. I'm going to have one large square like so, trim off the edges that are a little bit plain, and then 2 smaller squares. Now I've also got some more that I did earlier. As I say, I concentrated more on the pink on these ones, and I'm going to now place these all onto a really fun card. Now gluing this down is really easy. You can use almost any adhesive. Obviously you still want to be able to see through the embossing powder, so I'd say opt for a clear glue, but most wet glues will dry clear eventually anyway. But if you want to see that result straight away, start with a clear glue and then you'll see exactly how it's going to look when it's finished and dried. I've glued my tiles down now. They look really cool, but let's try another finishing touch. This is just awesome. So I'm just going to very gently heat these up. I've used a wet glue to hold everything in place for now. I'm going to gently heat them just to the point where they start to mold, start to get some flexibility back, and just start to kind of bend down. So where I've overlapped them, they'll start sinking and shaping into the card. Now, as I say, that stage is completely optional, but I just think it makes your embellishments that you've created really look like molten glass. So, so pretty. Let's add a quick sentiment to this card. And there's my finished card with a quick sentiment. Now you can of course do a lot more embellishment than this if you wish. It's entirely up to you, but that's the technique. I absolutely love it. I'm going to see if I can extend on this and find any more ways of using it as well. Just for your knowledge though, you do need to use alcohol inks with this. You can't do this with a water-based ink. So for example, concentrated watercolour, it does not work. But when I tried that out, it actually gave me an idea for another technique that I'm going to be testing out and playing with, and hopefully I'll bring that to you in a video very soon. So make sure you are subscribed to my channel, and I think you're also really going to like this video just here. Take care everybody. I'll see you again very soon.